Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, and I hope this podcast is helpful to you. I want to challenge the audience with something. Me and a couple of guys been talking, and we've been talking about this for a while. And I'm not going to, and I decided, I've told you this before, that I'm not going to be taking on any sponsors for our podcast. We never have. We've had one sponsor for a limited time where we promoted one product, and that's Pest Routes. And that's it. That's the only sponsor that we've ever gotten. We don't take any money from anybody right now to do this podcast. And I have permanently decided that that's going to be the case forever. So you can call me on this and say, no, you changed your mind. I said, no, we're not going to take on any sponsors. We're going to create our own products. And when I mean products, things that help you grow as a pest control professional, training services. We're going with the academy that we're going to be selling. A lot of people are calling me, hey, are you doing consulting? I'm not doing consulting right now. Too busy with the business. Don't have the time to take on a consulting gig. But it is something that we're looking at possibly for next year. Okay? Because I do get a lot of calls, emails, and people asking me, hey, and we're looking at doing some of that in some areas, but not yet. Well, the one thing that we have decided to do is, because there are other people on this podcast besides me that we don't make a living from the podcast. We make our living from our jobs. We make our living from the business that we have, and we don't do any selling of products, here. And Steven does a lot. I mean, he gives away a lot of content. So what I have decided to do to help those that want to come on and participate on this podcast and contribute as much as me and Steven does, is to create what we did was I created a Patreon account. Okay. And Patreon is a place where you can go, and if you feel that this podcast is delivering great value to you, I don't want to put banner ads in my website. I don't want to trash my website with marketing. I want this to be a place where we can honestly and openly talk about the things in our industry and be transparent and give as much as we can away. And I told you I'm going to give everything away in 2020. We're going to give away the best that we have. I'm prepared to give away the best that I have, the training that I can give, that we can give away. And so we created the Patreon, and you can go to patreon.com/pestgeek, and you can set up there, if you feel like giving $1 a month to this podcast so that we can do something more excellent than what we've done and continue to do it, and keep it everything free, where we keep it marketing free, spam free. You guys have never received an email from me saying, hey, you want to buy my product. You guys have never, I've known go on Messenger, even though I have hundreds of people in our group and on my Facebook page. In 5 years that I've been doing this podcast, you've never received an email from me spamming you to sell you anything. I don't believe in that. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. And so, hey, if you want to donate and you want to be on the contributor financially to the podcast, where you say, hey, it's worth $5 a month to me, it's worth $10, it's worth 20, whatever it is. If it's worth $1 to you a podcast, and you say, hey, we're putting out some really good content that, is, not sponsored. It's not jaded. It's, honest, transparent. We give you the best scientific information that we can that's available at that time. I think it's a new way of doing business. I think I like this model. And I've been suggested this model. I've been noodling this out for a year now, and I think I like it. And so this is what we're going to be doing. If you want to donate, I'm going to put up a link on our podcast. The link is patreon.com/PestGeekPodcast. And you can go ahead and sign up there and donate. And, tell us that, you're enjoying it and that we're helping you. And this way we can continue to do this. I thank you so much for listening to us for the last 5 years. We have an amazing audience. The audience is getting bigger. We are doing more things. So I am super excited about what I'm going to be bringing on. Hey, we're going to be discussing the most comprehensive list of active ingredient insecticides available for pest control operators exclusively for GHP by mode of action. Now, if you know about modes of action, I've done a podcast before. I'm going to try to put a link to it on this podcast. This is going to be a very extensive list. And I'm going to put up a link. You go to the podcast and there's a link to this entire list so you can get it. But it is a very extensive list of products available. I mean, a lot of people think we only have 2 or 3 products available, like, pyrethroids and neonics to do pest control. But the reality is that out of the list of 32 insecticidal mode of actions from IRAC, that is IRAC, there's 4 unknowns in there. And out of those 32 plus the 4 unknowns, there is actually 13 available for GHP that are available. And we're going to go through the entire list of the 13 with the active ingredients and the product names that are available so that you can have access, basically the knowledge to a lot more products. Like I said, most people don't know that all these products are actually available to do a lot of the GHP. Now, this is only for GHP, general household pests. This is not for lawn and garden, lawn and ornamental, turf and ornamental. This is not for dealing with wildlife. This is not for dealing with rodenticides. This is insecticidal mode of action, which includes some mites, and it also is going to include insect growth regulators, both juvenile hormone and synthesis chitin inhibitors. So it's a very, very comprehensive list. If I suggest you listen to this podcast with note, if you like to take notes, but if you're going to be on a drive, this one's going to be a long one too. So it's going to be a nice, if you got a lot of windshield time for it. So we're going to cover a lot of things on here. The number one is we're going to go into insecticide mode of action order, starting from 1 all the way to the end. And number 1 is the acetylcholinesterase, or known as ACHE inhibitors, which are your carbamates and your organophosphates. And most people are like, well, are there any left? I said, there's really one organophosphate left for use. It's acephate, which is orthene PCO pellets. If you've ever applied it, it smells like rotten cabbage. That's the best way I could describe what acephate smells like. There is, for lawn and ornamental, it's still available. But we're talking about that you can actually apply it indoor. And it's still used extensively for German cockroach use in restaurants. And one of the reasons why it's still useful in restaurants, in food service, for heavy infestations that people still use it. I mean, it's still available, is the fact that it works well with grease environments. Understand, if you apply pyrethroids in a restaurant as a surface spray, it's going to immediately get covered up by the oils. It just cover it up, and then it's no longer accessible to the pest. Well, you don't have those problems with the acephate, and that's one of the reasons why it's still used on the market for GHP. But that's number one. Number two is your GABA-gated chloride channel blockers, known as fiprols. And we really only have one available for GHP is fipronil. It's the active ingredient in Termidor and the active ingredient in the Max Force line, the FC Force line, the roach control line. That one is available. Obviously, you have your generics like Taurus available. But the original, that's number two, and those are in your fiprols. And now, if I am not mistaken, I think CSI is coming up with their own roach bait made from fipronil. I think they had it registered last year or the year before. I don't think it's out yet, but I just saw that. You might want to poke into that. Number three is the most famous of all, the sodium channel modulators. These are your pyrethroids and pyrethrum or pyrethrins. There are 30 pyrethroid, pyrethrum, pyrethrins active ingredients available. This is the most extensive list. There's more of these than in any other. Now, there's only 16 available for GHP. The rest, we're talking ornamental, agriculture, other applications, like collars, for insect collars for animals. Those are used for that. But for GHP, we still have that you can kind of use it. It's not really available for an application of spraying, which is elethrin. Now, elethrin was the first synthetic pyrethroid manufactured. It was introduced in 1949. What's available about it is what is known as in the Thermacell. The Thermacell mosquito repellent equipment. It's not available for spray, but it is mosquitoes in some states are GHP. Others it's lawn and ornamental pest, but it's a GHP. It's a general household pest. You can actually use this to repel mosquitoes. Okay. The next one, number 2, is on the list, is bifenthrin, beloved bifenthrin. It's almost like they should come up with a song, B and G and bifenthrin. They go well together. Because that's what I was told Miami was a B and G town, and this is why we have virtually no training going on in Miami for anything, because nobody cares. That's what I hear anyway, but I'll digress. Bifenthrin's Taustar, that's the original. And this, by the way, pyrethroids are broken down into 3 categories. You have your first category, first generation, second generation, and third generation pyrethroids. And, the most recent generation is that one, which belongs to that cyano group of pyrethroids. So there are differences in how they behave, but they're in one category, which is category number 3 or class number 3 of pyrethroids, pyrethrums, and pyrethrins. And the difference between the pyrethrum and the pyrethrin, for those of you that don't know, is pyrethrum comes from the chrysanthemum flower. It is a botanical extract. And then we get from that pyrethrins. And then the synthetic form of that is the pyrethroid. So those of you that are not understanding what's the difference, that is the difference. You got cyfluthrin available, which is Psychic CS. This is the most common one. That one is cyfluthrin has a couple of different in and of itself grew, like beta cyfluthrin, which is Tempo SC Ultra. That's one of those more modern products. Then you got your lambda cyhalothrin, the cyhalothrin. That one's a tongue twister for me, man. But it's your demand CS, okay? And then you got the gamma cyhalothrin, which is the new Scion insecticide. That's the difference. You got those two. Number 7 on the list is cypermethrin, which is your Demon Max and your Sign-Off. Man, first time I ever used Sign-Off, I wanted to puke. That thing smells so bad. But I remember that, and that's number 7. Then you have alpha cypermethrin, and that's in the new Fedona CS. Okay. And theta cypermethrin, which is, it's in the Sign-Off dust. And if you remember the old carbamate, which was Carbaryl 7, well, the new 7 was rebranded, or actually the same brand reformulated they got rid of the carbamate and they made it theta cypermethrin. It's also available for perimeter treatment in lawn in Triple Crown, TNO. So a lot of these, you can use for lawn perimeter, but we're talking about for inside the home, you really got the Sign-Off dust, and that's it pretty much for that that particular one. Then you got deltamethrin, Suspend, and Suspend and Delta Guard products. For, in some states, flea and tick is going to be a GHP, a general household pest. Delta Guard, I loved it for doing tick treatment. It was wonderful for that. The next one is S-fenvalerate. All right, S-fenvalerate, which is Onslaught. That one is a pyrethroid, one of the modern ones. I hear it's awesome for spider control for those guys that are having to deal with various spider problems. Etofenprox. Etofenprox is Zenprox, EZ. That one. Phenolphthalein, which is number 13 on the list. It's an active ingredient in a lot of products. It's not the main ingredient, but it's spelled with the PH, phenolphthalein, and it's in Bedlam Plus, in Precor, and in Sterifab. So it's an active ingredient, not by itself, but it is one of the combination pyrethroids used. Pralathrin, which is Onslaught Fast Cap. Okay, there's the Onslaught, and then there's the Onslaught Fast Cap, which is one of the again, I think that one's really good for spider control. It's actually labeled for that, I believe, in the marketing for spider control. And then tetramethrin, which is Zenprox Extend. That one has 5 active ingredients in there, but it is available in that item. And then permethrin. Permethrin is really old too. It's been around forever. Tengard is the original product in that. So for those of you that are looking for your pyrethroid, you got 16 available, which is the most extensive. Now remember, one of the things that when we're talking about rotating chemical classes, we're talking about rotating the entire class, not rotating which active ingredient. So if you're switching from bifenthrin to cyfluthrin, understand you're still in the same class. You're not rotating the chemical. You're rotating the chemical active ingredient, but you're not rotating the class. The importance of rotation is in rotating the class, not rotating the active ingredient. So this is why I'm giving you an extensive list of those. We're going to go into then the number 4, which is the neonics, which is the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor competitive modulator, known as neonicotinoids, or NHCR. Now there's 4 out of 6 available in GHP. A lot more of it is available for lawn and ornamental control and nursery environments and things like that. But the first one on the list is acetaminophen, and that is your transport GHP insecticide. Now, for those of you that want to do fly control, with that. You're looking at Endzone, the insecticide sticker. I have used it. It's pretty good, not by itself. It's in combination with, obviously hygiene in restaurants, food service, and also fly lamp control and, other, just basic sealing and keeping the doors closed, or, having positive air chambers and things like that, or air curtains. But for I've used it, where there's windows, and if you've got like a food service place and there's windows, that's a place you might want to put that. That one's really good for that. Transport Micron. It's a combination of a 3-4. So you got your pyrethroid and your neonic combination in that. So that Transport Micron is one of those. And then clothianidin is what's available in Crossfire. It's a new product, relatively new, for bed bug control. It's not the only active ingredient in there. You've got methylfluorethrin and piperonyl butoxide in that. So that's one of them. It's also the one available in Max Force Impact Roach Gel Bait. And it's also available in Vendetta Nitro Cockroach Gel Bait. So that's the number 2 active ingredient. And then the most famous of them all is the imidacloprid, which is available in a slew of products, anywhere from granular baits to gel baits for roach control, ant control, insecticide wettable powder, liquid, tempered FX, which is a combination of beta-cyfluthrin and imidacloprid, is one of those combination products. Are you're ready to spray tempered, lava lure granular bait, which is hydromethonon and imidacloprid, Invict Express granular bait, which is imidacloprid, Invict Blitz and granule is one of them, Invict Gold roach bait. You've got 2 products like Fuse, which is fipronil, and imidacloprid, which is 2 different modes of action, both non-repellent. That's one of the things about imidacloprid and neonics, is that they are non-repellent products. Premise, the entire Premise line, the Max Force fly bait, Max Force granular fly bait is great, and also the Max Force Quantum ant gel bait is available. It's also in Bedlam plus aerosol. Okay. And of course, the original imidacloprid is the Merit product. You can still use it a lot by itself for perimeter treatment, exterior only. So it's mostly labeled for granular bait and stuff when you're using it indoor, but outdoor for perimeter treatment for ant control, it's pretty amazing. We use that in our rotation. And then thiamoxazam, Thoxam is basically the Syngenta line, the OptiGuard Flex, the OptiGuard Ant Gel, and the Tandem insecticide, which is thiamoxazam and lambda cythrin. Those 2 are our combination product too. Going into number 6, glutamate gated chloride channel allosteric modulator. These are your avermectins. And reality is we got really 2 of 5 avermectins available, and it's an abamectin, one of the active ingredients. The first one is in average dry flowable cockroach bait. It's also available Vendetta plus cockroach gel bait. And then the second avermectin or avermectins, is emamectin, which is OptiGuard cockroach gel bait. Okay. And that is pretty much what you have available in that number. In juvenile hormones, we got hydroprene, which is your Gentrol. And you got methoprene, which is your Precor. Gentle for cockroach control, Precor pretty much for flea control. Okay, even though they're mostly they're both juvenile hormone mimics. They seems to be branded for one or the other works better. And then pyriproxyfen is Archer and Nygaard. Great for also outside for mosquito control, because it does hold up a bit better. The transfer on parts per billion is much greater with pyriproxyfen than with hydroprene or methoprene. In number 8, now these are miscellaneous, non-specific, multi-site inhibitors. These are known as your borates. Okay, and you got borax, boric acid, disodium octaborate, sodium borate, sodium metaborate. This entire line pretty much sums up the entire Nisus line and a lot of Rockwell Labs. So they're available in dust, liquids, gel baits, granular baits, ant and roach control. With a lot of this stuff can be done. So if you haven't checked out the Nisus line on this stuff with the gel baits and also the Rockwell Labs, I'd suggest you really look into that, because borates are very, very low impact for GHP. They work well. A little bit slower on some cases for some things. Some cases, it's the best thing to use. So I would definitely look at that. Now, 13 is the next one on the list, which is uncouplers of oxidate. Here we go. Phosphorylation via disruption of proton gradient. Phenapar, which is your phantom insecticide and termiticide. That's pretty much the only one that's available in that category to us. And then we have number 15, which is inhibitors of chitin biosynthesis type 0. There's type 1 also, but type 0 is Novaleron, which is basically your Trilona compressed termite bait packets. And if you want it for GHP, for mosquito control, for flea and tick control, then you can get it in Tico Pro Insect Growth Regulator from CSI Control Solutions. That's the only way you're going to be able to get it in a liquid form. There is nothing else available for it. So that's what I would be doing there. Number 20, mitochondrial complex 3 electron transport inhibitor. You only got 1 out of 4 available. It is available, though, in some good products. Hydromethanon is this one. It's number 20. And a Max Force Complete Granular Bait. Awesome product. Extinguish Plus Fire Ant Bait. Another awesome product. And Max Force Pro Roach Killer Gel Bait is what it's available in number 20. Now, number 22 is the voltage dependent sodium channel blocker, different than a sodium channel modulator of category 3. It's Indoxacarb. That's the only one you have. And Indoxacarb is what's available in basically the entire Advion and Aralon line, including the new Advion roach gel bait and the new Doxem precise placement bait from Control Solution, which is the precise applicator of dust gel bait, which is a great new product. We're thinking of getting that one and replacing that with our Avert application. And that is one of the new products that is out on the market. And then a Rhinodyne receptor modulator number 28, which is citroprenol. This is a long one, okay? Cyanotroniliprole Pro. Zyrox fly granular bait. It's really the only product that is available, but there is a GHP product for fly control. And then you have unknown fungal agents of uncertain MOA, Beauveria bassiana. And it's an Apprehend, which is the new product to control bed bugs, which is a biological. Okay, so this is the entire list of what is available for GHP. So you've got 13 modes of action. You've got a lot there to rotate with. Okay, so if you're saying there's nothing available, it is available. Unfortunately, a lot of these products are new products. A lot of these products, there is no generic available for it, and you're going to pay a premium for that product to rotate the mode of action. But if you're serious about, being an expert in the field and having multiple modes of action rotation so that you don't have a resistance issue down the line, and even in food service, listen, you might not have a resistance issue. What you have is a bait avertment issue, where the food product in the restaurant is competing with the food product in the bait. And you might need to carry 2 or 3 different gel baits for roaches. I mean, we carry 2 or 3, and we carry 2 or 3 gel baits for ants because we have that issue with the food competing. So a lot of times it's not that they're resistant to the product, it's that they're just simply not eating it. Because the very little resistance issues are actually out there with bait. There isn't a widespread, that you might find one, block that they'll find in somewhere in Massachusetts, where they found it in one, usually in public housing, because they're using the same stuff over and over and over and over and over. They're still, the technicians are still using Max Force FC roach gel with fipronil, that's, already 20 years old. And they're getting a rotation problem. So those are the things that you got to look at in order not to get rotation. But there's a lot of options out there, guys. A lot of this stuff sometimes is overwhelming because you don't want to do a lot of this thinking. But this right here will help you, put stuff into rotation, add a different rotation, add a different spin to it so that you can be more effective. And until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.